More in that house. Oh, yes. Hey, sweetie.
Miss Curry. She's getting ready to start.
Okay. For those of you that don't know, my name is Elaine Spears, and I am the chair for the public, excuse me, education committee for the Montclair African American Heritage Foundation, originally known as the Montclair African American Heritage Parade. But we are so much more than a parade. That name was changed, I think, about a year ago. Am I right, Bonnie? 2 years ago? About a couple years ago, that name was changed to encompass all the things that the foundation does. Today, I wanted to just welcome you all to this event, to thank you for coming. It's really a beautiful, beautiful day outside, and I hope that what we have planned for you today is going to enhance the beauty of today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Bonnie Taylor, who is the co-chair of the foundation, to come up and to say a few words about the foundation, and to also share with you what brought her to this place. Because it was Bonnie who decided prior to my coming into the committee that this is what she wanted to do. So this is really her baby. I just backed her up. So Bonnie, would you come up, please?
Thank you. Also, I do have some handouts I'm looking at some point about the history of the Montclair African American Heritage Foundation. Catherine Allen Curry, I'm so glad to see you because you're the first person on my history list. And that's because Catherine Allen Curry made mention to Audrey Fletcher back in the late 80s that she was concerned that there was no activity from the 4th of July parade in town coming through the 4th Ward and through our community, correct? And with that suggestion, right, hence came the Montclair African American Heritage Parade and Festival. And the founding group would be Catherine, Dr. Davis, Alfred Davis, Audrey Fletcher, where's Mother Buddy, Mr. Lonnie Brandon, right, and some other folks, but that would I expect have assumed to have been the core. Right? So in 1989, actually 1990, was when the first African American Heritage Parade and Festival took place. I'm not going to say that all the time. Right, through those efforts. So I'm going to move around this way now. So up until 2012, the organization was known solely by the fact that there was a parade and festival annually. But there were other things going on. And now I'm going to look at Jimmy, and also at Lonnie, and probably at Mr. Murphy in terms of rites of passage. That was a program that they had in high school that was used to teach young men and women about how to prepare from youth into adulthood. Would that be close?
Very accurate.
All right, good. That was my teacher there. So, in 2012, we became the foundation. And the purpose was to become more than, and to be known in the community as more than Parade and Festival. And so we have a variety of communities, one of which is chaired by Elaine Spears, which is called the Public Education Committee. Public Education Committee members, would you just take a moment and stand for me, please? 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you. In 2014 and 2015, the Public Education Committee became known here in town because of a series called Prepare for Care. And it was a caregiving series. We did not teach people how to be caregivers. We taught them what they needed to know before they entered into the caregiving arena. And it was a series of 4 workshops. The first year was held at the Montclair Public Library. The second year was held at the Community Center at the Fire Department downtown. Next, we have been fortunate in a number of collaborations. And first one I'd like to speak about has to do with how we ended up here. Jane Ilyasov and I were introduced at Nishawane Park. I can't remember whether it was our festival or Jazz House Kids Festival.
Your festival.
Okay. And Donnie DiGeronimo set that up. And so I got to meet
Who
Jane.
now is on our board.
Huh? He's now on the board?
Yep.
Great,
Yep.
great.
Yep.
That was some history here too. And Donnie is like involved in everything around town. So he introduced us, and at that time, Jane shared with me the documentary about the YWCA. Could you read the title again?
The place to become.
The Place to Become. How many of you have seen this documentary? Okay. Last year, wasn't it?
Yes,
When we
it's
had
going to be
the-
shown again in March, in the middle of the day though, at 1 o'clock, I think.
Okay.
I can tell you that, on March 9th, let me tell you. March 9th at 1 p.m. at the Public Library. We're going to be showing it again. Lily Edwards is moderating.
Okay, great. So our first collaboration was a filming that was last year, a screening that was last year. And I came by to see Jane one day, and Jane and I were talking about how many of you remember Being Black in Montclair series that Stacy Patton had worked with the Historical Society with many years ago. And Jane pointed out that she had all of these pictures and paraphernalia that people had donated for the exhibits, but had not been able to retrieve or didn't know where it was to be retrieved, etc. So she let me know that she has it here. And people need to come by, maybe take pictures and share them with folks so they'll know that the memorabilia isn't lost, it is available. No one's holding it hostage. They can come and make arrangements to pick it up. And then from there we started discussing the why. And I had shared with Jane that back in the day, like when the Y was moved, etc., the only thing we really heard about was Crane House, Crane House, Crane House, Crane House. And only those of us who participated in the Y knew that the Crane House was also the YWCA, where many people did wonderful and lots and lots and lots of things. Well, Jane had this book of pictures that she had collected and had made copies and shared that book with me, and I handed it out to different people around town and asked if they could take a look and try to identify. And good news is we do have some identifications now. We definitely would like to have more. Barbara Chase, who couldn't be with us today, but Barbara had submitted a lot of changes, and she gave us the book that we used to copy the other day with the additionals. And she says she's committed to still going around and sharing that book with people to still try to identify the individuals. It's a lot of history in those pages. And the other thing about Jane and I together talking is the fact that she is committed to helping us share the African American history in Montclair. That the Montclair Historical Society, which is now the Montclair History Center,
Yes, it is.
okay, is about including all of the history, not isolating. Okay, so I'm very glad about that. And we have one other collaboration coming up with the Montclair Film Festival. Anyone who knows anyone who worked in the 50s and 60s at Curtis Wright or Bendix Corporation Aeronautics, I need to know who they are. All right, because when we talk about and we've viewed the hopefully is going to receive an Oscar, Hidden Figures, we get to meet 3 women who were hidden in terms of what they did and their major contributions into the space program to NASA. Well, what a lot of people didn't know is that those folks that worked at Bendix and Curtiss-Wright were also contributing to NASA. They were working on contracts for parts that were used in space shuttles, right? I learned that as a kid because when the Apollo went up, you know how in school they'd have us all sit in front of the black and white TV and we'd see these things. After dinner that night, my father turns on the TV and says, calls us all in, and we're like, oh, Daddy, we saw this earlier today at school. So my father decided, okay, well, let me teach you something. And he taught us about the missile guidance systems. Like, don't ask me any questions about it. The missile guidance system. And we're like, oh, okay. And then Dad said he was the inspector of the missile system guidance systems that were used in the Apollo. He worked at Curtiss-Wright and also at Bendix. So I've spoken with some other people, such as, Helen Fry, who was a supervisor there, and she said, yeah, your father was definitely an inspector. And yeah, he did that. And her sister talked about the fact that she was in charge of a lot of the soldering. So the point I want to make, I think you feel it, is that we were involved on both ends, the high end and then also on the end that was creating the parts that were going to make all of this happen. And so what Montclair Film Festival is looking into is getting hold of the movie and creating a panel where we get either the members, folks who work there or their relatives to participate in a panel discussion during the film festival. And on that, I sit down. I have nothing else to say.
Okay, before I ask Jane to come up, I just wanted to point out a couple of things to you. On the table, there is a folder of pictures. And at some point, when we come back from the tour, we're going to give you all an opportunity to look at those pictures. There's also little stickers, if you will. If you recognize someone, you can certainly write the name on that sticker, and we would ask that you place it on the actual picture copies of the pictures. The other thing is I want to apologize to you about the copies because I'm the worst copier in the world. And if you see a page upside down or twisted crazy or whatever, please forgive me because I tried to do my best, but I'm just not a good copier. But the information is there, so please. So Maddie's good. Maddie made the first original copy, and then I tried to make the rest, and I just made a big fiasco mess of it. So I am sorry, but the actual photos are there. So feel free to put the tabs on it. Now, with that being said, I'm going to ask Jane to come up and to share information with you as well.
Thank you all for being here today. I'm really quite excited. The photographs that you mentioned, some of them are back here, and actually we were talking about them before and trying to figure out the best way to do it. And do we want to hatch the plan at this point? Do you want to mention it? We have to talk about it?
We're going to.
Okay. We've got some ideas for how we might be able to get out there and get people to actually take a look at them. There are some wonderful old photographs that date back to the late 19th century in there that really are family heirlooms and belong with the family, and so I'd love to be able to get them back. The other thing that we're collaborating on is also a film series called Price of Liberty Film Discussion Series. It's the 4th year in a row we've been offering it. And this year we're going hyper-local, so we're going to have the documentary, A Place to Become, which is our documentary. Usually it's at night, but when I found out that the YMCA is doing a similar program on the night that ours was scheduled, and actually Betty Holloway is working on a bit of a talk that focuses on Hortense Tate and Alice Hu Foster, I thought, well, there's a definite competitive audience thing going on. So I said, all right, I'd rather go to that than mine. I've already seen the documentary, so I'll be at the Y if anybody wants to join me. And then we also are doing the Our Schools that talks about how the school system was changed over, and I'm looking to put together a panel of people who are involved in that. And the final one is The One Who Got Away, which came out about 2 years ago. And that, for both of those two, we'll have the directors there as well. There should be plenty of advertising about it, but if you are interested in pursuing any of those, just let me know and I'll make sure that you guys find out about it. So, the house, as you know, was moved in 1965 when it was the YWCA, and it came here, and the Y continued to exist over on Glenridge Avenue, and this became the Crane House, and was interpreted to tell the story of Israel Crane and his family. I've been the director here now for a little less than 6 years, and to me, the part of the story that was obviously missing was the period when it was the YWCA. And truthfully, I find that a much more interesting story. I mean, you can go to a lot of historic houses throughout the United States and see chamber pots and bed warmers and that kind of thing. But this was truly a unique story. The wonderful thing is I had the backing of the board, and I said, I really would love to do this, and they said, yes, let's do it. And so we actually closed the site down for a couple of months in 2014, and when we reopened it, we now include the period when it was the YWCA. We also include the people who moved the house and founded the Montclair Historical Society, as well as the enslaved workers who we know lived in the house, and the Irish immigrants who lived in the house 100 years later. So we're trying to tell a much more inclusive story about the people whose lives interacted here, or either lived here or interacted here, and using that as sort of a window onto what was happening throughout the United States more broadly. So when you go upstairs, what you're going to see is, I'm going to give you, if you choose to take the tour, what we call our Many Voices tour, because we believe it takes 1,000 voices to tell a single story, which is an old Native American proverb. And so we're just telling some of those stories upstairs. This is our standard Sunday tour now. We also do specialty tours, like tomorrow we're doing one called Eyewitness to History, which uses primary and secondary documents to look at the African American experience in the United States throughout the 4 periods that are represented in our rooms. So keep an eye out for it. If you're not on our mailing list, please let me know and I can get a sheet of paper around for you guys to get on our mailing list. And if you are on Facebook, Helen Fallon does a tremendous job of always making sure what we're doing is on Facebook. So either of those 2 ways are great to find out about where we are and what we're doing. So thank you for coming. It really is a delight to have you here.
Thank you. Now we're going to actually proceed to do the tour. With those of you who are not going to go on the tour, would you just raise your hand just so that we know how many people are going? Okay, great. Okay, so everyone, it looks like everyone pretty much is going. So, Jane, did we want to do 2 groups, or did you want to do 1 group?
Well, why don't we go upstairs, and if we find that we can't all fit into a room together, then we'll do Plan B. How does that sound?
Okay,
All
that's
right?
fine. Okay, so folks, we're going to proceed. We're going to follow Jane.